Well, good evening, and thank you for being here tonight, where we now will reconvene our regularly scheduled School Board of Trustees meeting for the February 13th, 2018. Apologize for being a few minutes late. I had a good bit of business to work on back in executive session. Where we discuss student appeals, student admission requests into the district's adult ed program, employment recommendations, releases and in-district transfers, a personnel matter, and diploma petitions. At this moment, we'll go ahead and move on to our inspirational moment. Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight, Ridgeview's JR OTC, directed by Melton Cannon and Jean England, will present the colors. The Ridgeview Chamber Choir, directed by Aaron Phillips, will sing the national anthem. Please stand.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Oath. 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 Mark.
Thank you so much, Ms. Agostini, for arranging that. That was beautiful. Thank you. To move right along, we'll now go into our next item, 4.1, the approval of the current agenda. May I get a motion?
I make a recommendation that we approve the agenda as presented by the district.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. If no discussion, we'll take a vote.
I'm having trouble getting in.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next up, 5.1, special recognitions. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always a pleasure to have Ms. Lieber Ruth come before us and share with us some special recognitions for this month's board meeting in Richland School District 2. Ms. Ruth? Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Dr. Davis, Chairman Plank, and board members, as always, thank you for the opportunity to present to you some of our district's highest achieving students and employees. We also thank our parents, community members, and coworkers who have come tonight to help us recognize our brightest sparks. And I'm gonna catch my breath. Okay, so we're gonna start with Richland Northeast High School's literary students, and we have Gracie Boyce and Caroline Williamson. I believe that Ellie Pobus couldn't make it, so if y'all will come forward, and I'll ask your CAVPlex director, Nina Brooke, and principal, Dr. Sabrina Suber, to come forward as well. These creatively talented young women, sorry, I have a new sidekick helping me with photographs today, too. Won first place for Design of the Year for Literary Magazine Spread from the National Scholastic Press Association. The award was presented in November at the National High School Journalism Convention in Dallas, Texas. The really tricky part of what they had to do is they had to create a magazine spread within a definitive time. They had one day to find just the right photograph, but also to write a poem, all based around the theme, and lay out the spread, all based around the theme of community. Now, they chose a great community event, our Soda City Market that's downtown, and the people in the events found down there. To have creativity and the talent to do that is amazing. To do it under constraints of a time limit and a specific topic is absolutely astounding. So we congratulate you on this great honor. Thank you. And stay tight for your picture. Next, we move over to Blythewood High School, and we have a large contingent of Bengals right here beside me. I'm going to ask y'all to go ahead and make your way up front. We have a big stack of certificates that you'll get handed to in just a little bit. All of their names are listed up there, and I would not do a great job with some of those, so I'm not going to get to try, but you do see all of them listed here. The reason we are recognizing them tonight, and also let me bring up Sergeant Frank Bell, who they are under the direction of. There he is, great. And as well as their interim principal, Bobby Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham would come forward. The team had a great showing at the South Carolina High School Army JROTC State Championship, winning first place in 3 categories. The meet was held in Airport High School in December, and as we got the stack of certificates, we do want to recognize the commanders of the 3 first place finished teams. And if you're here, raise your hand for us. Cadet Sergeant First Class Cameron Smith. He led the squad to a first place finish in the Armed Squad Regulation. Cadet First Lieutenant Jessica Mitchell led her squad to first in Unarmed Squad Regulation. And Cadet Major Asia Williams and Drill Team Commander Cadet Captain Kamani Quick led the team to first in Unarmed Squad Exhibition. So we say congratulations to you all, and now I'm going to kind of get y'all in a position so we can take a photograph while everybody claps for you. Can we get a couple more to kneel so we can bring a few more up front? Oh, goodness, let me get out of the way.
Smiles, no smiles.
I'll just hang tight for a while. two football stars that we could not have with us last time that we needed to recognize, and they're both from Spring Valley High School. So if Principal Jeff Timoni will come on up forward, along if he's also the athletic director Tim Hunter, and we'll ask football stars Channing Tyndall and Willie Keandre Jones to please come forward. Both players were invited to some of the nation's most prestigious post-season events in the state and the nation. Channing Tyndall was selected to play in the 2017-18 U.S. Army All-American Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. He was recovering from an injured shoulder, so he passed on the Shrine Bowl, but he did go on to play in the Army Bowl, and I caught a little bit of that game. It was in San Antonio on January 6th and featured 100 of the nation's top football players in an East-West matchup. Channing was one of 4 finalists from that game nominated for the Doc Blanchard Award for a player who exhibits prowess in the classroom and on the field. In his high school career, Channing was named by High School Sports Report a 5A All-State defensive player and an All-Region player. And Channing has decided to play college ball at the University of Georgia, so we'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to see him back, at least competing in South Carolina a few more times. Keandre Jones, and certainly we look forward to maybe watching you on Sundays too. Maybe you'll be a Cowboys then. Keandre Jones played in the 2017 North-South All-Star football game, joining an elite group of players from around the state. The game was held December 9th in Myrtle Beach. Coaches from 2 teams reviewed nearly 400 nominations to come up with the final roster, 44 for the South and 44 for the North. Keandre, who is a linebacker, played on the South team, and during the game he had 6 tackles and 2 assists. This all-region player, who was named a 5A All-State defensive player and all-region player, will be playing college ball at North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, and I bet we'll see you on Sundays too. Congratulations to both of you. Already knowing how to stand for the photos. Perfect. Thank y'all, and congratulations. Best of luck. We never like to miss the opportunity of touting our educational office professionals, because we certainly believe that in Richland too, we have the best in the state and the nation. And so we have new state and national officers, and if they'll come forward as I call their names. From the South Carolina Association of Education Office Professionals, we have President-elect Aranda Jackson and Vice President Melody Wise Butler, who are both from Richland Northeast High, as well as Area 5 Director Nona Montoya, and she is from our Support Service Center. On the national level, we congratulate President-elect Jill Avery Hart and Mid-Atlantic Area Director Paula Rosenberger. Both are from the district office. We have 2 appointments to the National Board. Georgette Council from the district office is Administrative Council Chairman, and Louise Snipes from Summit Parkway Middle as the Middle School Council Chairman. We've seen each of these ladies up here before as they've completed their certification and have held other county, state, and national offices. What you don't see is all the hard work they do daily, not just in leading and keeping this district running very smoothly, but in being leaders for their state and national organizations. They have worked hard to provide awards and scholarships and community service for educational office professionals across the state, and we are all very proud to be your co-workers. Congratulations. Yep. Hold on just a sec. Louise, will you come stand on that side? We'll just even it up a little bit. Get it balanced. There we go. Great. Congratulations again. We're now going to recognize representatives of another hardworking group, and that is our school counselors. We have a school counseling office that received national certification. So with those from Richland Northeast come up, that's the Director of School Counseling, Jacqueline Jacobs, school counselors Tanya Amwaka, and Dr. Yolanda Smith-Charleston, and Lonnie Brooks. And we will ask their principal, Dr. Sabrina Suber, to come up as well. and our lead school counselor, Dr. Otasha Morgan. So these ladies are very proud, and we are very proud of the fact that they have earned the criteria to be recognized as an American School Counselors Association's model program. They worked very hard to prove that they have met all the requirements of this program. The application is quite an amazing task, but most importantly, what this recognition signifies is that they are dedicated through school counseling programs to the success of all students, and they have developed a comprehensive school counseling program that is based on data, and that doesn't happen overnight. It takes hours and days and years of work. So we are very, very proud of you, and you'll be recognized. Richland Northeast is going to be recognized nationally in July, so congratulations. Congratulations. We are very excited to end our awards tonight with our United Way recognition of our campaign. So I'm going to ask the new president and CEO of the United Way of the Midlands, Sarah Fawcett, to join Mr. Manning up front. We'll give out our awards, and then Ms. Fawcett would like to say a few words of appreciation to the district. Let me begin by saying that this school district is premier when it comes to supporting the United Way. We have increased giving by 10.8% to an all-time high this year of $126,000. Our district leads every other school district in the Midlands, and we are proud of it. Dr. Davis set a goal for each school and center of a 10% increase. We are hoping that maybe 10 or 12 would meet this lofty goal. We were wrong. 25 schools met and or surpassed this challenge. We also lead the Midlands in the number of leadership givers we have, those who give $500 or more. We saw a big jump of 45% increase in those gifts to 45% in leadership giving. Because of all of these achievements, United Way has named Richland 2 the best campaign in the public sector. So I'd like to ask Dr. Davis to come up front, as well as our overall campaign chairman, Shelley Kriegshaber, and Georgette Council, who is our leadership giving coordinator, to receive this award, as well as the gold category award that the district office campaign received for having per capita giving of $150 or more. The district office averaged $187 donated per person that gave. Shelley Kriegshaber leads this effort, and the district office raised more than $35,000, a 17% increase from the year before. So congratulations to them. We're going to let Ty take their photograph before we call up the next winners. We're going to get you X's next time. Congratulations. We got more. You can stay up there. We got a few more awards. Sorry. All right, we're now going to recognize our silver category winner. Yep. This is for per capita giving of $100 or more, and we're going to call up W.R. Rogers Adult Continuing and Technology Education Center. The campaign director was Emily Manigo, and at the time of the campaign, Bobby Cunningham was the director, so we're going to ask him. Right now he's having a temporary position, but Mr. Cunningham would come on up to accept this award. They are receiving the Silver Award for per capita giving of $100 or more per person. So we'll take their photograph and congratulate Rogers Center. We have 6 schools who won bronze awards for per capita giving of $50 or more. And so we'll call up all the bronze winners and take one photograph. First we have Blythewood Middle. They're receiving this award, but they also doubled doubled their campaign from the year before. The campaign director for Blythewood Middle is Missy Dissinger, and we'll ask Principal Karis Mazik to please come forward as well. Next bronze winner is one of our perennial United Way leaders, Catawba Trail Elementary. Year after year, this school is near the top and giving 100%. Campaign director is Latanya Schuler, and we'll ask her and Principal Denise Barth to come forward. The Center for Achievement is another center who leads the way in giving. The center had a per capita giving of $53 per person. Campaign director is Melanie Matthews, and lead teacher is Kimberly Hutchinson. Lake Carolina Lower had a great campaign. They are led by Becky Ann Struthers, the campaign director, Principal Dr. Andrea Berry. They had 100% participation and per capita giving of $58. All of these schools help fuel the flame of giving as our bronze winners. I'll let y'all take your positions, and Ty will get your photograph, and we will congratulate them for being bronze winners. I have nothing great. Okay, our next group of winners includes our school with the highest total, as well as schools that either tripled or doubled their campaign, and then the best new campaign. Longleaf Middle School is our district's leader, raising the most money of any other school, just shy of $6,400. With their leader, Patricia McCormick, please come forward, and Principal Robert Jackson. In its second year of operation, R2I2 nearly tripled its campaign, and their campaign director, Sandra Baker, and Principal Jennifer Kane. Ms. Kane. We have two elementary schools who are being recognized for doubling their campaigns. Condor Elementary, led by Sarah Hayes and Principal Paula China, and Polo Road Elementary, led by Wendy Chick and Principal Cassandra Bozier. And our last school to get a special award is our new kid on the block, Jackson Creek Elementary. They are actually being honored with a special award from United Way called the Premier Award for the Best New Campaign. Their campaign director is Shonda Merritt, and the principal, Dr. Sabrina Masso-Taylor. Jackson Creek had just opened its doors when it was time to start up the United Way campaign. But just as they have done everything this year, everyone kicked in. The school raised $4,434, which is our second highest total in the district. So congratulations to all of our other award winners on a job well done. Mr. Miller?
Thank you all very much. And I want to, on behalf of United Way of the Midlands, as well as all the people that are served by United Way of the Midlands, I want to thank you very much for such a successful campaign. I have just a couple of very brief things that I want to say. First of all, is that not only does Richland 2 lead all of our school districts in terms of giving, but they also lead every other educational institution, including the University of South Carolina. Wow. So congratulations, and I want to thank Dr. Davis for all of your support, for supporting the campaign. It really does start at the top, and I thank you very much for your support. I want to thank Shelley also for her incredible job as the employee campaign director, and I want to thank Georgette for a great job as the leadership giving coordinator. And I want to also thank all of the folks at each individual school, whether recognized tonight or not. It's not easy to go out there and ask your peers for money, and you all have done that very, very well. just a couple of very brief things. This money goes towards helping people in the Midlands, which covers 6 counties for us, in the areas of financial stability, economic mobility, access to health care, and education. One of the programs that we have that directly benefits Richland 2 is our MRC program, our Midlands Reading Consortium program, where we send trained volunteers, just like you guys, out into elementary schools to read to students that are 3rd grade and younger, that are at risk for not being promoted. We are in 30 schools across the Midlands, including 2 here in Richland 2, which are Catawba Trail Elementary and Pontiac Elementary, and we are very proud to be able to be part of that and would love to be able to expand those services as needed in Richland 2. Again, thank you very much for your leadership. Thank you all for your giving. Have a good evening.
Well, thank you so much, and we do appreciate that and the spirit of giving in our Richland 2 family. At this point, we'll move on now to 6.1, our faculty focus. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's let them exit out. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This evening we have media specialist Laura Switman and Blythewood Middle School, from Blythewood Middle School, and Cynthia Johnson from Longleaf Middle School are our faculty focus for February. They will share the great work they are doing with libraries as design hubs that incorporate maker learning and computer thinking to expand opportunities for students.
Good evening,
Ladies.
Dr. Davis, Chairman Plank, and school board members. So thank you for inviting us to share about our work. We want to share with you tonight our work in our libraries to expand the learning opportunities for our students. Our students come to our libraries to read, to access information, but we want to expand that learning to include creating, inventing, exploring, because we don't know what our kids can do in the future. So we want our libraries to be a place for them to explore. So thank you. We're going to show you a video now. Our library goals are to promote reading, collaborate with teachers, and help students with their research projects and digital creation. With those goals in mind, I still felt that we needed to do library differently. So I approached Donna Toiber at R2 Innovates and asked her about what I can do to change how we do library. We used the Future Ready Library Initiative as our starting point. And we looked at our spaces and we came up with the driving question of how might we cultivate an environment where all of our learners create, design, explore, tinker, and connect. And that set Cynthia Johnson and I on a journey to redesigning our library spaces and how we view our work in our libraries. As we looked and learned about maker spaces and how they were growing in our community, and Cynthia had already started her work in maker spaces at Longleaf, we saw that all of the skills that students practiced while learning in a maker space tied in with our profile of the South Carolina graduate. So we felt that our work was headed in the right direction. As we grow our makerspace projects with design challenges and have students participate in open-ended creative projects, we see the connection between computational thinking, where students are having to problem solve, collaborate, think critically, come up with steps so they can replicate their work. And these are all skills that they need to be computational thinkers.
As our library moved from a place of consumption to a place of creation, design challenges were developed. 3 design challenges that we have completed include creating a free little library, the remodel of the media center, and designing a makerspace cart. Through the design thinking process, students brainstormed, created prototypes, and then they finally presented to the faculty and community members as well.
Hi, my name is Tamani Gillespie. My favorite thing about our library makerspace is that the teachers are very respectful. They provide us with a lot of activities that have cooperation, and you get to communicate and get to know people well and get to know different things, and you learn different things, and you kind of experience different things. So that's my reason. My favorite thing, and my favorite thing is about having fun and seeing other people smile and making me smile. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Makai Washington, and to me, I think Makerspace is a great way for students to interact with each other and get to have a hands-on activity. Yeah, Makerspace is great.
I think everything about the library makerspace is awesome because you can get together with your friends and start creating stuff. It's also a way to use your mind and everything else in your brain.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Mackey?
Awesome presentation. Period. I like the way you allowed the students to exhibit their creativity by recording in their own spaces, being very individualized. But thanks for the presentation. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Swetnam. I appreciate your time and what you're doing for our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving right along, we'll move into our 7.1, the legislative update. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Miley is going to give us a brief overview very brief of what's going on downtown. But just as a sort of a lead-in, last week I was blessed to be able to attend the Equity Symposium and the Advocacy National School Board Association Conference in Washington, D.C. And it's nice to see that so many of the sentiments that we talk about here are echoed there. Resoundingly was write and call your legislators about things that are important to you. Education, everyone says is important, but you look at people's checkbooks or their budgets or your financial statements and you see where your priorities lie. So as education is concerned and as you have concerns about what decisions lawmakers are making, please call and write your legislators, because if they don't hear from us, they assume that silence is consent. And the more they hear from us, it actually helps to determine their agenda. And oftentimes, the people who are making those decisions aren't as well versed as people who are in the room today. So just be encouraged to stay in contact and write or email your legislators. Dr. Miley?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a 3-page summary in front of you. I will not go through that in detail. I'll just give you a couple of highlights. One is the legislature's been in session for 5 weeks. They have not. I have not heard them utter one word about the base student cost yet. They are consumed by the V.C. Sumner facility fiasco. I haven't heard a whole lot about the education programs. They have taken up, they've got a couple of special subcommittees that have been working. Even though it's been 5 weeks, it seems like they really haven't made a whole lot of progress. as you see, most of these that are in this summary are provisos that have been proposed or bills that have been proposed very early in the process. One of the bills that they have made a great deal of progress on is whether you use plastic or paper bags at grocery stores on the coast, but education proposals seem to be lacking in terms of solid progress in the legislature. With that, I won't go through all these details, but if you have any questions about it, they've been taking up absent that you might want to see. I haven't seen any mention about school start dates, buses. As you know, they overrode the governor's veto, so that's passed us. But in terms of this year's budget for education, I've seen very little movement. It is, although it's about 5 weeks, it's still early in the process. We are anticipating not hearing anything out of Ways and Means for for our budget until maybe mid-March. So it's still a little early. Any questions?
Thank you,
Chair.
Dr. Miley. Mr. Manning.
Just one comment. One of the provisos I see that's missing is a proviso that they pass every year that allows them not to provide the full base student cost based off their own form.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I'm sure that will
I'm sure
be
it'll
coming.
be out there because
Yeah.
they do it every year. So.
I asked several of the entities that the organizations, SCASBO, School Board Association, and SCASA, if they had heard any mention of the base student costs. And the rumor is that they're just telling people that don't expect more than $50. And as you know, last year we got $75, and that actually got cut about 30 days ago to $65, which they do in year some of the time. So we're not expecting much in the base student cost help at all.
Any other questions for Dr. Miley? Thank you for your work on this.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Mackey, thank you. And this, as Ms. Mackey mentioned in the beginning, this is a time to build that relationship with your legislators and let them know that the base student cost is an important issue. The buses are an important issue. These are the things that affect us, and that phone call matters. So thanks so much.
Thanks.
Ms. Mackey.
Comment, just thank you, Dr. Miley, for providing this information to us. I know that you're our chief financial officer, but found out recently, talking to some colleagues at the State House about your history with the Budget Control Board and how you were actually the chairperson of that and did some work with Ways and Means. So your knowledge base as to how this all fits together makes sense now. But I appreciate all that you're doing and applying that knowledge to help us get things pushed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Miley. Next up is our consent agenda. At this point, I will take a motion for the approval of the consent agenda. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Ms. Agostini. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Elkins Johnson. If no discussion, we'll take it to a vote. Let's just do hand vote then, just to confirm. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next up, we have 9.1, which is our public participation. No one has signed up, but if you'd like to address the board, please do so now. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 10, voting on executive session items. We'll start with we have 10.1 employment recommendations. There are no positions that are required for board vote. So next up is 10.2, the personnel matter.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Caution Parker.
I recommend to uphold the superintendent's recommendation for employee 1.
Motion made by Dr. Caution Parker. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. Motion passes 5-2. Thank you very much. Next up, we'll move on to item 10.3, the approval of the diploma petitions. May I get a motion?
I make a recommendation to approve the diploma request for student number 1.
Motion made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. 10.4, student appeals. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Manning.
I make a motion that we pull student number 1. Student number 2, recommendation is to deny the appeal. Students number 3 and 4, if we could please pull those. Student number 5, deny. Student number 6, if we could pull that student. Student number 7, Blythewood Academy. Tamika, tell me if I'm going too fast. Student number 8, Blythewood Academy. Student number 9, deny. Student number 10, deny. Student number 11, deny. Student number 12, deny. And the addendum number 1, student number 1, deny.
Motion is made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Agostini. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll vote. Ms. Sherman,
Yeah.
we're missing some of the numbers. Okay.
Do we need to wait for the motion to be right on the screen?
Yeah. Mr. Manning, you want to take a look at that motion, make sure that jives with what you just said?
5. We need student number
7 and 8 or below.
Okay, 7 and 8. Student 9, 10, 11, 12, and then addendum number 1 is what we're calling number 13 up there. Does that have to say addendum?
Yeah,
or
let's
can we-
change 13 to addendum if we could,
Yeah.
please.
Mr. Chair, as that stands, that is correct.
Okay, and so the motion's been made, it's been accurately placed on the screen. We have a second, no discussion, so this time let's go ahead and vote. Individually,
And
yes.
vote on each of them?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Remaining on student appeals, we'll move on to the items pulled. Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, student number 1, I make the recommendation to deny the appeal.
Motion's been made. May I get a second? Second made by Ms. Agostini. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll vote. Bless you. Motion passes 6-1. We'll now move on to student number 3, Mr. Manning.
Yes, sir. Student number 3, Mr. Chair, make the recommendation to deny the appeal.
Motion been made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Agostini. If no discussion, we'll take it to a vote. Motion passes 4-3. Thank you very much. Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, student number 4, make the recommendation to deny the appeal.
Motion's been made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. If no discussion, we'll take student number 4 to a vote. Number 4, motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, student number 6, make the recommendation to deny the appeal.
Motion made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Caution Parker. If no discussion, we'll vote. Motion passes 5-2. Thank you very much. I believe that was the end of the students. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to item 10.5, student admission request into the district's adult ed program. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I move that we accept the student admission request as proposed.
Motion's been made. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, moving on now to item number 11, old business action requests. We'll start with 11.1, approval, the school calendar. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Price is going to come before you this afternoon or this evening to share with you or address any questions that you may have regarding the approval of the 2018-2019 school year calendar.
Shad. At our last meeting, you got the presentation and the proposal for the 2018-19 school calendar. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms.
I have some
Agostini.
comments. I'd like to just read part of an email that was sent to me by one of our lead teachers at a magnet program saying, would it be possible for you to mention to the district leaders and the school board that it would really be helpful to families and schools to either have a calendar in place before winter break or vote on a 1 to 3 years calendar at a time, like Lexington, Richland 5 approved 3 years at a time. Many competitions need this information earlier than we have it. Also, many families plan vacations more than a year in advance. And then this is sent to me with a forward from a Furman professor inquiring about our school district spring break policy or plans for next year. But also at a meeting last night that I attended between a divorced parent, a parent that works at Fort Jackson in the school system, their calendar is waiting on our calendar, and then also family travel plans. We've got a lot of families that are not originally from our country that travel abroad for the summer. There were several concerns expressed to me about the lateness of our proposed calendar. I guess in years past, we've done a great job of doing it or getting it completed prior to this or before winter break. So if we can take into consideration, moving the time frame up. I do appreciate all the efforts that were put into this in terms of reaching out to different people, the parents in the community, but just something for us to take into consideration when we're planning forward to get an earlier start or get this approved sooner.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini, for your comments. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, may I get a motion for the approval of the 2018-2019 school calendar?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 2018 school year calendar as proposed by executive staff.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey, seconded by Mr. Shad. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Price. Now move on to 11.2, approval policy revisions. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are bringing before the board tonight the revisions to the following policies for approval: a policy IHAQ, career transition to work education, IHAM, health education, and JLD, school counseling.
Okay, these are up for approval or any, may I get a motion first off? Mr. Manning.
I make a motion that we approve the revisions, DBD, DE, DFA.
Hold on one second, if I can stop you. You're jumping ahead a little bit. This is 11.2.
No, actually, I apologize. Let me go back then. I approve revisions IHAM, IHAQ, and JLD.
Motion
in my
made.
Best Southern accent.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Motion's made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Again, thank you. Next up is item number 12, new business, no action requested. We'll start with 12.1, proposal policy revisions. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Franklin and Dr. Miley will bring before you the following proposals for revision to the policies DH, which is bonded employees and officers, DE, revenues from tax sources, DFC, federal aid, DFA, investments, and DBD, determination of budget priorities.
Good evening. These policies are from Section D. They're the first set of policies from that section, which all relate to business and finance. And Dr. Miley will gladly answer any of your questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Mackey, we can. Where would you like to start? DBD? Or DA? Let's see, it's up there, it's a little different. Yeah, so we can start with DH if you'd like. Okay, so any questions or comments for DH? All right, then let's go with, let me get back. DE? Ms. Mackey.
Second paragraph, under debt structuring, and I presume these are changes you make as proposed by the State School Board Association? where it says while maintaining debt level service millage, why is that stricken?
That, we didn't know what that meant. We certainly want to maintain as level of debt service as possible, but I'm not sure we can guarantee in our policy that it's going to be level.
Okay.
So the language was a little misleading to us, so we suggest taking it out.
Okay.
We certainly want the millage rate to go down or stay
Yes.
steady,
Yes.
but level wasn't clear enough for us. We suggest taking that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed policy DFC, federal aid.
I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Mackey?
And I think we may have already discussed that, Mr. Miley, with regard to Dr. Miley, sorry. Clarity with regard to...
You had a question about the last paragraph?
I did, the review by the Office of Financial Services, and I know that's an internal entity for us, but it sounds like it might be an external agency. I wasn't sure how we could clarify or if we even need to. I know we're referring to Richland too right now because I asked you.
Right. We can clarify by saying something about the district's Office of Financial Services, if that would make it clearer. Yes, sir.
Okay,
If that's the will of the board.
Do I have any questions or comments regarding that addition of the district's office? Okay, I'm not necessarily looking for so much for a vote, but if there's no opposition to it, then you have that recommendation? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Let's go with then policy DFA, investments. Any questions? All right, go ahead, Ms. Mackey.
Have been in the past, and we suggest that that's a good phrase to put in with authorization from the board. You may have some suggestions on changing that at times. We have done that in the past, not since I've been here, but it has been done.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. And then the final DBD. Any questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, we're finished with 12.1. Thank you. Next up is 12.2, second quarter financials, 2017-2018. I guess Dr. Miley.
Thank you. In your board report, you have the second quarter financial statement. It's a little bit more information, given that we're halfway through the year. What I wanted to point out to you is on page, and I failed. I told you I'd put page numbers on here last time. I guess I'd better read my own notes. I will make sure we have page numbers next time. But on the page that has revenue received, we've received 35.9% of revenues for the year. That is actually below our five-year average. Our five-year average is about 38%. So we're pretty far behind. It's not of any concern because we will get these funds. But for instance, the state property tax relief fund is like 24%. It's usually about close to 30% on the last five-year average. And the fringe benefits are closer to 50 to 51% at this time of the year for the last 5 years. So those two state categories are lagging behind, which is pulling us down to below our five-year average. In terms of expenditures, we're actually flip-flop. We're a little bit below the last 5 years average. We've spent about 44% of our budgeted general fund to date through half the year. That's a little bit below the five-year average, which is about 45.6%. So we're trending fine. Those revenues that we are short right now will be coming from the state. We don't doubt that, but at this point, we're watching them closely. The rest of the report, you've got there's a page number, page 3. How about that? Somebody's taking care of me. You have the Education Improvement Act, the EIA funds. Again, this is a one-page argument for our fund balance. We generally receive funds slower than we spend them. And as you can see, the EIA funds, we actually are on target. We've received about $7 million. We've spent $6 million. We've got $17 million to come in the second half. The next page, page 4, are our special revenues, and this is what I meant by the one-page argument for our fund balance. We've received about $5 million of those funds out of the $31 million we're expecting and budgeted, but we've already spent $9.2 million of those funds. Any questions so far through the report? We've got the board report, board expenditures through the first 6 months, and we have a summary of our capital fund balances to date on page 6, with both those outstanding from the 2008 referendum and then our last 2 years of the 8% capital improvements budget.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning.
Just kind of one question that's sort of two. I noticed on page, since you have page numbers number 2, and the fringe benefits, we're
Yes.
at 36.05, which is tracking a little bit behind the salaries expenditure. Are we expecting to still kind of hit that expected budget or exceed that, or what are we looking on that?
Probably so. The timing of those may just be a little bit off. I'm not sure exactly why. I can find out why theirs would be different. They should be relatively close. In terms of the fringe benefit expenditure relative to salaries, that may be the case.
You can just get back to us. And I apologize. I didn't get a chance to ask you that beforehand.
Yeah.
So
I know that we're not short on any fringe benefits covered by employees, or we would hear from them.
Yes.
So I know that we're covering our liabilities there. So
I just know with the changes, I just wanted to sort of get an update on, sort of where we are, and just saw that number. But then I guess kind of tied to that, so for, some of these that are 78%, so we're, more than kind of halfway through, and others where we're, 30%, where we're less than halfway through.
Well, in some of those expenditure categories, those are things like contractual services that we might pay a service solutions or a vendor for the full, for 6 or 8 months at a time, and commit those expenditures through encumbrances, whereas we don't pay employees ahead of time. So.
Okay, but we're tracking okay on all of that.
Right now we're okay.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Dr. Miley, I appreciate you. I know you said it just briefly a second ago, the fact that we have our fund balance and this expenditure. There's an example where we have a $4 million deficit on paper, but we've got the fund balance to be able to cash flow that as we go through. Yep. So appreciate that. Now on the 8% funding on Fund 524, which is the 16-17 year, is that the remaining amount? When will that be retired? Expected to retired?
It's actually lower than it is as December 31st. We've actually spent funds. For instance, it's down to the total funds are 388 as of December 31st. That's down to 285 right now. We still have some encumbrances in some things that we'll be planning to spend those funds on. Probably, George will probably in the next 3 to 4 months. There are projects that either didn't cost as much as we thought, or we delayed, or we didn't do, and we've got plenty of demands for those funds.
And as those reduce, that opens the capacity for additional 8% funding. Is that the way I understand that?
No, when this isn't retiring any of that debt, where our capacity for 8%, as we'll get to the next agenda item, is still right at that $10 million capacity. Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, let's move on then to the 8% budget for 2018-19. Dr. Miley.
The one thing I wanted to mention, our 8% proposal this year, you have the detail in front of you. Like in previous years, we're shooting for about $10 million. That's about our 8% capacity set by law. We've split that up since I've been here, and prior to that, about 50% for IT and 50% for facilities. One of the things I wanted to mention, and that's what we're doing this year, and Tom and Will have spent a lot of time putting together their project list, is that in the last 10 years, just in the last 10 years, we've probably spent $300+ million on new facilities. About 5 elementary schools, a middle school, a high school, R2I2. And we've been spending the same $10 million a year. So the pressure on our facilities and our IT of a $10 million capital improvement program per year, it goes less and less. We're spending $10 million 10 years ago, and my point is 10 years ago, we spent $10 million for the facilities, $5 million for IT and $5 million for facilities. Well, we've added $300 million worth of facilities since then, and we've added a ton of students for IT and things like that. So it really has put pressure on this budget, and I think both IT and operations deserve a lot of credit for making those dollars go as far as they can. If you have any specific questions about the project list, Will and Tom are here to answer any questions if you have any questions about that list.
Thank you, Dr. Molly.
We'll come back to you for a second reading of the project list, and next board meeting we'll bring a bond authorization that you'll need to approve so we can issue those bonds later in the spring.
Any questions, comments for Dr. Miley? Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Mr. Miley, I was looking at Windsor, and for the running track, is that something new or is it for repairs?
I will turn to Will and get a better answer for you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Can you repeat that question? Yes, ma'am.
The running track, is that something new that we're getting ready to build, or is that something we're replacing?
That'd be a new addition to to Windsor. It was on their request, one of the principal requests, and a new addition for them and for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any other questions? I have one. Our newest high school, Westwood, just to help me out, I see that we're repainting it. It seems brand new to me, but I know years go by and it happens. And I know our schools are, they get a good bit of foot traffic, but what is the customary time to repaint schools?
We try to repaint on a 5-year cycle. And Westwood is now surprisingly their 6th year. They actually should have been painted last year, and conflicts with the school and did not work out. So we are going to phase it in this year and next year to try to minimize the impact of. You see the price for just half of it, and so we're.
Oh, that's just half.
That's just half.
Wow.
And so talking about that $5 million, so we're going to do half of it. We had some bigger projects last year, but we try to do a painting cycle of every 5 years and flooring of every 5 to 7 years as well to try to keep those maintained.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Mackey.
Quick question. I'm looking at the improvements you have going on, and I presume, I know Jack used to say that everybody's on a cycle with regard to maintenance and things of that nature. With regard to our older schools, such as Keels, what is our procedure for making sure that we, not just patching or, touching up, but making sure that they have the overhauls that we need for our older schools? Or maybe plumbing or things of that nature for the really, really old schools? What process do we have in place to make sure they may not be on the other schedule as the other schools, they may need more? What process do we have in place, or how do we determine when some of our older schools need a little bit more attention?
Great question. So there's a couple of things to point out. One, we in terms of this, we always have the principal's request of what their needs are. We balance those with those types of real main issues with the schools. Our team headed by George Gooch, called him Doctor, Director of Maintenance. His team and the preventative maintenance team go out to all of our schools, and in those schools in particular, and do a lot of preventative maintenance checks. And they have a couple-page list of things they're maintaining and routinely checking. So we have a list of all of our schools of some of those systems that are old systems that we need to maintain. So when we get these lists from the principals, at certain times we have to balance a high need as opposed to what a principal may need or want. We also build in, as the end of our budget here, you can see there's district items. You have a school-based items, but then you have district items as well. those district items are really supporting the schools. So when it mentions boilers and HVAC, those are for those systems at our schools to make sure that we can replace those. Our team does the best they can, and then the last part of that, it gets to a point where the 8% just cannot handle it. And so as you see, as we finish developing our facility plan, those items that we have to address through our facility planning process, be it roofs or major systems. At the end of the day, if something bad happens with what we have built in and what we may have to, we should be able to still fund those major projects. But I will say that on the work of Mr. Gooch and his team, our facilities are in good shape, and the systems are well maintained and kept up, but hopefully we have them on a cycle where we keep them up to date. I hope that answers your question. But
We always have a spotlight on equitably providing for the school's needs. Not every school needs the same thing. One of the things that they were talking about at the conference this past weekend was that we should focus on each student, not just all students, because each student has different needs, and if we're focusing on each student, then we will have taken care of all students. So by that same concept, just making sure that we've got a spotlight on those schools that may need a little bit more,
sure,
so that they can be equitably, they have an equity in the resources that they receive. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, that was perfectly what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Manning.
One more question, I'm sorry. Dr. Miley, the total, what was our available 8% versus what we have expended here?
Our available 8%, when we get ready to issue this bond in April, late April, early May, will be about $10 million. That's our available 8%.
So, but
capacity.
by doing the $5 million, we're keeping the debt service.
No, we're proposing $10 million.
Oh, 10 million. I'm sorry.
We're proposing $10 million.
I saw $5 million on.
It's $5 million for facilities and $5 million for IT.
For IT, I got you.
Yes.
$10 million. So we're using the entire.
We're about up to our
8%.
cap.
But that still keeps us. Our debt service doesn't go up.
We should not change our debt service.
Okay, I'm
Correct.
sorry. I appreciate that clarification.
Should not change our debt service millage. That's what you're asking.
Correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Okay, without any other questions, appreciate Dr. Miley. Will, thank you. All right, next up is item 13, new business action requested. 13.1, approval of a board meeting time change. This is something that, one, we appreciate you guys always being here and hanging out, even though it gets a little thinner as the night goes on. We've been, for going on 4 years, since I've been on the board, we've had a 7 o'clock board meeting time. Watching our students, student focus, our faculty focus after a long day of work, our other educators, those who come and present, to our administration, and just community members, Fort Jackson, who come out to participate, the media as well, who comes out to participate, in an effort to help make that time a little more efficient. I'm proposing a 6:30 start time for our future board meetings. With that being said, may I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, before we make a motion, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I would like to propose that if we're going to change the start time of the meeting to 6:30, that we change our start time for executive session to 5:30 to allow us at least that 1 hour of time to prepare to make sure that when we're talking about our students, and back to what Ms. Mackey said, each student, that when we're talking about discipline and expulsions, that we have enough time to adequately talk about each student's case and not be rushed, because many times with the new start time that we have gone to at 6 o'clock, it does not give us the opportunity or allow us to really focus on each student as we're making decisions about this case. So I would love to support that 6:30 start time if you will be willing to go back to the 5:30 start time so we can make sure that we focus on each student. Thank you.
No, and I appreciate that comment. Let me go further. I also would indicate that we would start executive session at 5:30 as well. I may not have been clear with that because I'm really speaking to the public time. I believe the executive session time has more flexibility, isn't required to actually have a voting element to it. But right now, we start executive session at 6 o'clock and we start our public session at 7. So we have 1 hour executive session, which we're pretty efficient, have been able to do that under that. Most cases, 98% for the last 6 months. By shifting the time to 6:30, we would shift our executive session to 5:30, therefore also remaining 1 hour for our executive session time, of which we will work very diligently to be efficient with that time. So with that being said, Dr. Elkins-Johnson.
I'd like to make one more comment. I know earlier you stated that the public session started at 7 o'clock, and that's been the time since you've been on the board for 4 years. Actually, that's been the time for 20-plus years. So I want to make that correction, that the change is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And what I was referring to about the 7 o'clock was, since I've been on the board, it has been 7 o'clock. Prior to that, it may have been 7 o'clock for many years. So I appreciate your clarity. So with the proposal is that we would start the board meeting a half hour early, so that hopefully we would be able to conclude a half hour earlier, so you guys can have better night's sleeps and get refreshed for your next day. With that being said, yes, Ms. Mackey.
Just a comment before we take a vote on the motion. It's only 30 minutes. It's only a 30-minute span that we're pushing the meetings if we do this. And if I understand correctly, it's so that students who are here can get in and get out in time and not have such late nights. Sounds like a good idea to us and for the people who proposed it. My only, I guess, concern is that after we voted on this, assuming that it will be, the vote will pass, if we get feedback from the people who are affected, there are a lot of people that attend these meetings, and I don't know about educators. To me, it's a good deal because it lets them get in here faster and get home faster. But since it's been 7 o'clock for a very long time, after we've made our vote tonight, I'd like to request that we allow for feedback if we get some feedback that's negative, because people have already, budgeted their time for 7 o'clock, that we consider the same.
Yeah, and
give people a chance to have feedback.
And I appreciate that. And there's been a bit of research that's gone into that, because you want to balance between that in-between time of getting off and getting kids where they need to be after school events, and as well as starting. And the feedback that I've gotten is that 6:30 would be pleasing. If there is an outcry to change, I'd be glad to do it. It's not as though this is just coming about from just really, I don't know if there's ever been a question about why, other than just why do we do it at 7 when we could possibly do it at 6:30. So. And again, there's none of this, the proposed shift would not change any restriction to the executive session, which currently is an hour, would remain an hour. So with that, I guess I would ask if anyone would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Manning.
I would like to approve the proposed time change for future board meetings, beginning with the February 27th, 2018 meeting.
Motion's made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning.
I want to say, I think one of the things that this building has allowed us to do is to shift that time. I know for a long time there were those board members who wanted to make changes. I think Dr. Elkins-Johnson and others have asked to change it in the past, but because of pressures with setting up equipment, tearing down equipment, schools having to be ready, it really was sort of impossible to do that. And with this building, now that we sort of have this space, I think it gives staff better ability to sort of manage some of that, and so I think that's important to also understand that in the equation. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, we'll now vote. Just to be clear, the motion is for 6:30 p.m. start date with the next board meeting. Start time. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. What did? Pardon? Oh, you did not put your, I see. Okay, all in favor, let me just re-vote again. If all in favor, if you'd raise your hand, please. Okay, motion passes 6-1, or 6, okay, motion passes 5-2, forgive me. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 14, agenda items for February 27th. And I apologize, Mr. Shad, for not recognizing that. Item number 14.1, agenda items for February 27th. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, for the February 27, 2018 future agenda items, we have student expulsions and appeals, student readmission requests. We have a student focus. We'll also provide a legislative update if one is needed. Do a report on program and study, a report from the minority business report. Also, the approval of policy revisions DBD, the determination of budget priorities, DE, revenues from tax sources, debt, and DFA, investments, DFC, federal aid, and DH, bonded employees and offices. We'll also have proposals for additional policies at that time, policy revisions, as well as approval of the 8% funding and approval of the bond resolution.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any other additions or for future agenda items? Ms. Agostini.
Mr. Chair, I would like for our next meeting or in the near future, the administrative rule for policy IC, the school calendar that we passed at our last meeting, that we were talking about having an administrative rule written for the policy. I would like to see that presented.
Okay. Okay.
I think we put it in the board brief. We provided it in the last board brief.
Yes, Ms. Mackey.
The legislative update, if nothing significant, if there's no significant movement, I won't do one. But if we need to do an update, I will. I'll have one. I'll be ready.
Okay. Well, we can have it on the agenda, and if
No
there's
problem.
no addition, you can just let us know that there's no update.
No problem.
Okay, great. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Yes, I would like to see the policy presented to us on students who carry BB guns in schools. If you could just review the policy and share that with us.
That will come out as a board brief as well. Okay. All right. At this point, we'll now move on to item 15, public participation. Again, no one has signed up, but if you'd like to present before the board, please do so now. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the 16.1 board and superintendent comments. I will start here. Let's see, where did I start last time? On the right, so we'll start with my left, Mr. Manning.
So, appreciate everyone being here. I thought it was a great meeting. I missed the last meeting. That is the first meeting I've missed in my entire tenure as a board member, so I apologize for the fact that I could not be here, but I was with a bunch of 12-year-olds at Disney who had the flu, strep throat, and I think we had a flat tire on the bus. So trust me when I say I would rather have been here with y'all. But otherwise, everything's going well. People ask me how things are going in the district. I tell them I think this is the smoothest I have seen things go in the district since I've been on the board. We knock on wood. Thank you, Libby. And so that's due to all the great work of the board, Dr. Davis, to all of our staff members in the district, and really appreciate being able to focus on the things we need to focus on. So thank you all for your hard work and efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Ms. Mackey.
Always, just thanks for the people who are here in the room. Your time is precious. Some of you have to be here. Some of you choose to be here, but bless you for being here and being a part of this process. Likewise, I appreciated all that we were presented with tonight, particularly the detailed information that we got tonight. And just in observance of Black History Month, it's not really a month to me, but it's all times. I wanted to just, say Happy Black History Month, but wanted to make a point that as we're living, we are actually creating history. So as we think about our actions, our initiatives, our behavior, and our endeavors, they ultimately create the changes that we make and the changes and improvements we inspire others to make. But as everybody won't go down in a history book as making some life, changing, significant part of history, just realize that you are part of history just by the actions that you take and the support you give others. And for everyone who is not going to create some invention or do something famous that to be known for in history books, just remember that people don't always remember the things you did anyway, but they do remember the way you make them feel. So as you're interacting with others, try to be the person that you'd like to be around.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Dr. Elkins-Johnson.
Just like to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins-Johnson. Dr. Caution Parker.
Congratulations to all of the award recognition recipients, and thank you for the presentations this evening. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend Ms. Agostini for this wonderful, inspirational moment. I was touched by it, especially with the American spirit. It's absolutely what we need in this climate. And happy Valentine's Day to my bride. Happy anniversary to Dr. Elkins-Johnson and her groom. And happy Black History Month, which is American history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Ms. Agostini.
I too wanted to recognize the Ridgeview Chamber Choir. I thought were just spectacular, and I'm glad that they were here to work with the Ridgeview JROTC, and then congratulations to all those that were recognized this evening, and again, thank you to all the presenters.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me begin by sharing the winner of the Quiz Whiz Middle School Academic Tournament. The winners, Dent Middle School, won the trophy this past Saturday for the third consecutive year. They successfully competed against Kelly Mill in the championship round. All 7 middle schools in Richland 2 participated in this year's tournament. Dent's win qualifies them for the Middle School National Championship Tournament in Illinois. Dent students also recently won the Regional Math Counts Contest to advance to the state competition. Our 2018 Presidential Scholar Candidates has grown by 4 students. So pardon me as I'm a little challenged with reading the names, but I'm going to give it my best shot. All right. They are Vinitu Purapali, I think that's right, Ishitu Kapoor, and Gloria Kim and Isaac S. Lee from Spring Valley High School. The final selections will be announced in May, and we're already extremely proud of these students. All candidates have been invited to apply for this honor and the recognition of our nation's most distinguished graduating seniors. So we're very proud of them for this accomplishment. I too like to take a brief moment just to talk just a little bit about African American history. It was a great question that was asked of me of a student, and I provided it for him, and I thought I would share this for our audience as well. African American History Month began in 1915, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. That September, the Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and the prominent minister Jesse E. Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and other people of African descent. Known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, this group was responsible for sponsoring National Negro History Week in 1926, where they chose the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. The event inspired schools and communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, establishing history clubs and host performances and lectures. In the decades that followed, mayors of cities across the country began issuing yearly proclamations recognizing National History Week. By the late 1960s, thanks in part to the Civil Rights Movement and the growing awareness of Black identity, Negro History Week had evolved into Black History Month on many college campuses. President Gerald R. Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, calling upon the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavors throughout our history. Since then, every American president has designated February as Black History or African American History Month. And this February, we continue this long-standing tradition by recognizing and celebrating the past and present accomplishments of African Americans and Americans who have contributed to our American history. The Office of Diversity and Multicultural Inclusion this year unveiled the Pathways to Purpose, Inspiring the Future and Celebrating Black History Month. The office put out a request for information on individuals from the Richland 2 community with unique and significant contributions to Black history and culture. Individuals recognized have excelled in the areas of art, education, engineering, music, health, science, technology, and the military. The honorees are featured on our website and social media, and they will be celebrated at a reception on February the 26th.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, and thank you for that history lesson in Black History Month. I appreciate that very much. Before you are 7 board members, 7 different mindsets, 7 skill sets, 7 individuals who care in their own way, love in their own way. And sometimes that can be challenging to have 7 of all those different things come together. But about 2 weeks ago, we came together for a mid-year board retreat here in this building to continue the work that we started back 6 months prior with our first board retreat. I just want to commend and thank each and every one of the board members here who have come together with open minds and the ability to look forward and to adhere to our core 4 values of family, success, integrity, and professionalism, and to continue the work of our top 3 priorities surrounding facilities needs, surrounding governance, and as well as supporting our superintendent in his first year. So thank you so much for everything that you guys do and contribute, and I believe we are a very cohesive unit, and I appreciate that. Mr. Shad mentioned the American spirit. I had the opportunity to be out of the country for the last 10 days, and I'll tell you, there is nothing better than stepping off that plane onto American soil. There are challenges throughout our country, but there are challenges throughout our world. And when you step back on to the United States soil, let me tell you, I went to a place where a lot of people were moved. I was in Israel for 10 days. But I'll tell you, nothing moves me more than stepping back into the United States of America. So thank you guys for being here, and with that, without any objection, we will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you.